Yeah, so, a lot of people in the comments seem to agree with this. We'll try to find some of those comments, or rather agree with me. I'll get your opinion, Zach. I'm not sure if you think I'm fully or not yet, but a lot of people in the comments on recent Rising videos seem to agree that Briahna Joy Gray seems to be increasingly fed up. I saw a couple comments saying things like it feels like it's only a matter of time before she just gets up and walks out of the studio in the middle of a conversation. And, there's probably a couple different reasons for that. I think that it must get exhausting to have the same debates with Robby Soave on a pretty much daily basis. This guy is incredibly frustrating to debate with, and he has very stubbornly held positions. Now, Briahna does it gracefully, and she's incredibly polite and respectful, much more patient with Robby than I think I probably would be able to, be for sure. But I think that might potentially be getting annoying, constantly having to have these conversations with a guy like Robby who has such different politics than her. Also, again, there's no actual evidence for this, but The Hill has been doing a ton of UFO videos, like on a daily basis. They're making like 1 to 2 to 3 UFO videos. I'm not sure if Briahna might be getting a little bit annoyed about constantly having to talk about the UFO stuff. The Hill in general sometimes kind of picks weird topics. They constantly want to talk about guys like RFK Jr., Tucker Carlson, Vivek Ramaswamy, these like faux populist right wingers. So, again, I'm interested in what you guys think, but I have seen a lot of comments that reflect the sentiment that Briahna seems increasingly fed up, that it kind of seems like her fuse has gotten shorter, that some people said she got triggered in this debate, and that in a lot of recent conversations, she's easily triggerable. Like, just the smallest disagreement between her and Robby will kind of send her off. So I'm interested if you agree with that, Zach. Now, I love this energy from Briahna. As you're about to see in this clip, she does kind of go off on Robby, and I love the energy. I think she's making excellent points. But it is true that I've noticed a bit of a shift with Briahna as far as her patience goes, where it does seem like she used to have a little bit more patience, and now she's a little bit more quick to go into full debate mode and kind of just shut down Robby or shut down whoever they're talking to. So again, I'd be interested if you agree based on this segment. This is one example of, like I said, a tradition that a lot of people have been, or not a tradition, but a pattern that a lot of people have been noticing as of late. So I'm excited to get your opinion and see if you agree, Zach.
Well, the moment you've all been waiting for is here. The coveted O.J. Simpson endorsement has come in. The former NFL star turned accused murderer is throwing his support behind none other than Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's hear what he had to say.
This morning, I got up and I found myself watching Meet the Press. They had the Vivek Ramaswamy on. Now, just like the debates, the Republican debates, I said, hey, this guy is on to something. I do have this book. I've only got like 30% into the book, but I love what he was saying in this book. I was saying it's fresh, it's new. I got a little problem with his foreign affairs take, that I saw in doing the debate, but he's young. I honestly think if this guy untie that knot, that for whatever reason he has that associates him with some of these other Republicans, if he just untie it, stick with the things that he was saying in his book, and if he got himself an experienced person to run with him, an experienced person, I would say, like Nikki Haley, somebody that knows foreign affairs, this guy would have a chance.
Rivals, Vivek, Nikki Haley ticket. They don't seem to like each other very much, but it would win OJ's support. Very interesting. OJ says later that he's not a Republican, not a Democrat. He's actually closest to being a libertarian, like yours truly, but maybe with a not quite libertarian foreign policy is what it sounds like.
That's great. All he needs is a few million more O.J. Simpsons, and he could ride the wave to the White House.
I can hear a note of sarcasm in your voice, Briahna.
I don't know what to say. You just want the best person? Is that what he said something along those lines? The best person for what? The best person who's going to cut the taxes of a multimillionaire like O.J. Simpson? well, then you probably should vote for someone like Vivek Ramaswamy or someone in the Republican Party, generally speaking. That's a safe bet. If you are a millionaire and you want to exclusively vote in your best interest, you should 100% keep voting for corporate members of both parties, but specifically the Republican Party tends to do more in terms of tax cuts for the rich, because they don't have an interest in maintaining social programs. So you're going to get things like Trump's $1.7 trillion tax cut that enormously added to the deficit, and 83% of every 83 cents of every dollar went to the 1%. Fantastic. You're going to want to get corporate Democrats going too, who'll do things like the COVID relief bill that was the largest upward transfer of wealth in American history. You saw the PPP loans go out to Kanye West and Jared Kushner and all of these millionaires. And then you saw the student debt policy get scuttled for working people and kids that were too poor to be able to pay for college out of pocket. So I agree, that's great. But if you talk in these vague terms and you have no actual politics, then you're gonna make these kinds of choices. Or is it good for you? Is it good for rich people? Is it good for poor people? Is it good for working people? Is it good for the environment? Is it good for foreign policy? I mean, you obviously don't have any politics, any like sense of political understanding or analysis. And I don't mean that in a patronizing way, but like, I don't like Vivek's foreign policy takes. Do you understand Vivek's foreign policy take? Do you understand the idea of wanting to be an anti-war candidate? Why would you imagine someone like Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley could ever run together on the same ticket when the reason that Vivek is popular at this moment is exactly that foreign policy take? It's the best thing about him, where from my subjective view as a progressive, whereas Nikki Haley has the exact opposite total investment in the blob sort of a view. I mean, like, it is frustrating to me. It's frustrating to me when there are views like this that are bandied about. I mean, and this is kind of like a joke and whatever. Nobody really cares what O.J. Simpson thinks.
Although I've heard a lot of people, not just O.J. Simpson, I've heard a lot of people have that reaction from the debate that they liked Vivek best and they like Nikki Haley best. And I too have said, but they have totally contradictory views, but it's about something beyond
because
that.
I think that our public education system, the media, should be explaining the real world consequences of what people believe and what they're advocating for from a policy perspective. And
this is really interesting in true, but I think that part of it is like, it's like, okay, so like, why are we parroting these views out to people? Like, do you, like, I know that Briahna has absolutely, as far as I know, she has no control over like what topics they decide to respond to over, but you can tell immediately that the producer, whoever decided OJ endorses GOP hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy for 2024, that wasn't supposed to be a hostile takedown, right? Which it's kind of the exact problem that she's laying out here of the media apparatus. It's exactly what, her own employer is laying out for her right now. So I could see the frustration here, but it also must be painful to not be able to just acknowledge that, the one thing I love about, like, the only boss I have is my GM Rachel, and we work in a bar. You get to scream at your boss if you work at a bar and you're like, good at what you do, right? Everybody just blows the fucking lid on each other. You're just like, dude, I'm fucking pissed at you right now. Like, what the fuck? I don't think that she can turn around and do that to her producers, but I get the energy from her today that she wants to, and I love the heat.
Yeah, dude, I love it too, 100%. I absolutely agree with everything that Briahna has said in this clip. But yeah, you do get the sense that she's a little bit fed up with these, topics of conversation, and that's kind of coming through in the way she's just kind of frankly destroying the arguments rather than kind of having the fun, light, tee-hee conversation that I imagine the producers were envisioning this segment as when they picked this topic, if that makes sense. But let's keep watching a little bit more of this.
In a way that wouldn't make it so easy to confuse why you would like two different people. Do people ever ask folks to rank their priorities? It's okay to have different priorities. It's okay to say, I personally value foreign policy less, and therefore I like Nikki Haley because of other things she has to offer. To say, I care about the environment, but I like foreign policy more, and therefore I like Vivek Ramaswamy. Those are perfectly legitimate arguments to make. But what frustrates me when I hear things like what O.J. Simpson has said, or more, here's a better example. Some recent statements from Oliver Anthony, the singer of Richmond, north of Richmond. He recently tweeted, people crying about burning coal, but not the poor souls digging it. I reckon there's been a good many man in the grave trying to keep our houses lit, and like talking about how the plight of coal workers is so terrible. But many leftists pointed out the exact same people who are upset about the environment are the ones that are trying to get you universal health care, be able to not have you subject yourself to black lung and early death because you're doing the kind of job that is no longer beneficial without government subsidies.
I don't know what the. It's not a hypocrisy dig on him. He said it. He said he was upset that they used his song and said that he was talking about the people on stage. So he's not really trying to associate himself.
I'm not upset with him. I don't think he's a conservative, but I'm not trying to ding him as a conservative. But this tweet is incoherent because what it does, I'm not upset with him.
Which tweet is it?
The tweet I just read about people. Why are the same people who are mad at the environment? People's crying about burning coal, but not the poor souls digging it. It's literally the same people. It's literally, there was a movement not too long ago and a presidential campaign by a guy named Bernie Sanders, where the idea of a green transition was about having good paying jobs for people who don't want to go down to those hell pits anymore, just because it's the only job in their state that can support families, and that actually wanted to give them health care that they so desperately need, and dental care that people so desperately need, and address the opioid crisis, which people so desperately need. And so what is going on? I'm not mad at Oliver Anthony here, but what is the political education going on where people aren't aware that there is a way that you can marry all of these interests, where you feel like working class people aren't being taken care of and that they're being looked down their nose at by elites? All that's true. So who's actually offering a prescription for that? There are folks willing to do it and who have an anti-war message and who have been consistently anti-war since before it was popular to do so to get votes in the 2024
Libertarians.
primary. Maybe that is an answer, although they're not going to do very much for this guy's healthcare and coal issues, although you would stop some of the subsidies for dirty energy, which would be a good idea.
Let them compete in the open free market, have less government.
Oh gosh, she has to set Robby up for one alley-oop after she scolded and destroyed his entire worldview for the last fucking 7 minutes and 31 seconds that we've been watching this. She's like, but you know what, Robby, they would inevitably go under out of business under your warped and topsy-turvy plan because we're massively subsidizing them to keep them afloat. Of course, the rest of our economy would fall apart. People would starve. There'd be mass famine. But hey, you get this one W, Robby.
Right. And I totally echo Bree's frustration with this kind of enlightened centrism, which is currently in vogue right now, that I think a guy like Oliver Anthony absolutely represents and just completely personifies in the current moment, where it's like, yeah, your whole politics basically amounts to these broad cliches about the state of the country, but there's no actual insight or there's no actual analysis that is anything broader than, like I said, those cliches. Yeah, wages suck. Yeah, politicians are corrupt. Yeah, you're not wrong to point those things out, and obviously no one's really going to disagree with you about those things. But if that's just your politics, is just to be reflexively anti-establishment and to say fuck the elites and fuck all politicians, well, that kind of ignores the nuance, and it kind of ignores the fact that, well, there are politicians and there are political movements that are fighting for you and that are fighting for the causes that you claim to care about, but you're ignoring them and you're just grouping them all together and saying all politicians suck and all politics is corrupt. It's like, no, if you were actually serious about this, then you'd be a Bernie Sanders progressive. You'd be talking about socialism. You'd be railing against corporate capitalism. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just making these kind of broad, sweeping anti-establishment cliche statements that aren't very substantive, despite the fact that they are indeed true. So I get the frustration from Briahna there totally.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it would grate on me for sure as well. But I honestly I'm loving it. I think this is the kind of energy that she should bring every single day to just these fucking stupid points, right? It kind of reminds me a little bit about how Destiny responded on that Adam and Sitch panel, where he's like, I talk to them like they're fucking children because that's how their political understanding functions, or whatever the fuck he said. Was that a good way to win voters? No, but we're having a frank conversation right now. It's like now she's broken down where she's in a frank conversation with the audience, and she's like, guys, if you want to be rolled, if you want to be played, if you want to continue to suffer, then this is the guy to fucking support. But if you want to have healthcare, if you want to have dental, if you want to have all the shit you say you care about, well, the options have been presented to you. Make up your fucking mind and stop bitching, and I like that just plain as day, this is this is how it is.
Yep. So yeah, as I said, Briahna clearly kind of getting a little bit frustrated, a little bit fed up. I'm interested, Zach, if you agree with some of the theories out there, even being espoused in our own chat. I'll throw this one up on screen from Ray. Brie is about to be gone or fired from The Hill. Robby is the favored for that show, and she said it herself. It's the main audience is Robby's audience in its current iteration, which I think is fair to point out, much like with Breaking Points and how it seems like a lot of their audience agrees more with Sagar. It does seem like if you look at the comment section on any given Hill video, most of the comments are supportive of Robby and more often than not are critical of Brie. But yeah, do you think there's any truth to that, Zach? Do you think that Brie might be looking for the exits?
My analysis is no. Frankly, I think that she might have been annoyed and fed up, and I think that adds a level of like fire and tenacity to the show, and I think it lets everybody know exactly how ridiculous she finds whatever position OJ Simpson's whatever it is for the day. I think that it adds a nice counterbalance. Look, Robby brings a real schoolyard like prim kind of energy to the show, right? He's very like boyish and all of those kinds of things. In his analysis, I think too, in his like outlook of the world, like he's just like, oh, I'll get rid of regulation and all the problems will be solved. We'll have more flights. We'll be just like Europe. Ha 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 ha. Right. And yeah, I do think that is going to appeal and cater to like a right wing audience, but I think you need a natural counterbalance to that. And I think that Brie being a natural litigator, a natural at debating and shredding people's arguments, and just honestly taking very little shit. It makes her seem serious, even if the audience disagrees with her points. And I think that, she's tough. I don't think that she's fucking, I mean, she was Bernie Sanders' press secretary and they threw all the mud in the world at that lady. You know what I mean? So I don't think that she's going to be like scared or intimidated out of the audience or the comment section or anything like that. Plus, I imagine they're paying her pretty well. And who the fuck are they going to find that does a better job than she does? I mean, I thought it would be impossible for them to find somebody to replace Crystal and Sagar. And you know what? I'm not as big of a fan of Robby's on-air personality, but I think Briahna Joy Gray does a good job of making the show her own and having it feel different than it did under Crystal and Sagar. I think that they would be at a loss. We've seen the kind of people that march through there. The one fucking like crazy lady that we're pretty sure we had a hand in getting fired. That video did like 75,000 views overnight. Vanguard doesn't catch lightning in a bottle like that anymore. The powers that be won't allow it. But yeah, there's for sure a good chance that the executives over at the Hill saw that video, and then they never had that lady back on ever again. They also had Roger Federer in there for a while. I think they like the boy girl, the man woman. Excuse me, fucking,
Yeah.
Set up. That's not the Vanguard kids over there. That's the real adult club over at the Hill. If you're working for a billionaire, that's how you know you're serious. You know what I
mean? Yeah. I have mixed feelings. I do kind of get the vibe that like Briahna might be thinking about potentially like leaving the Hill.
To go
I'm
where?
Not sure. I don't know, man. I genuinely don't know. But I do get the sense that she's at the point where she's just kind of like out of fucks to give. I don't know if that's actually because she's considering leaving or not, but I certainly do get the vibe that she's out of fucks to give. And let's look at the comments here. There are a lot of comments where people are saying things like this. Have a shot every time Brie gets triggered and goes on a rant, which I don't really think is a fair way to characterize that segment. I don't think Briahna got triggered or
it's going to be a bunch of right wingers indulging in the angry black woman thing, isn't it?
There is a fair bit of that. Absolutely. Yeah, that definitely, I think, is responsible for some of the way that people are characterizing her interaction on this segment. But yeah, and again, I don't think she got triggered. I don't think she went on a rant. She was definitely assertive. She was definitely kind of out of fucks to give, like I said, but I don't think she was like triggered or anything like that. And here's another one, how much talk time did Brie have this segment? The poor guy can't and hardly ever gets a word in.
Maybe she should have smarter shit to say. I don't know what the fuck. He didn't have any fucking answers for that. He's a libertarian, guys. All he has is the one line. Well, I would deregulate them. I would take away all government subsidies. And he said that same line 4 fucking times. What else did you want to hear from Robby?
Yeah, this person says, man, she is literally going nuts. Not really. Again, she was definitely assertive, but that's not really accurate. Jesus, this is not Brie's show. She doesn't let Robby talk ever. Yeah. Another one says, is Brie here just to argue no matter if she's right or wrong? Love seeing Brie losing her mind. Fun to watch another wasted mind is a terrible thing. So yeah, a lot of people seem to think that like Briahna is increasingly frustrated, increasingly like triggered or something like that. Which again, I mean, I think it's fair to say that she does increasingly seem a little bit frustrated or fed up. I don't think she's triggered. I don't think, she heard what OJ said and was like just so triggered by it. I think she was just kind of annoyed, if anything.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that most of those people are just like pissed that there was a black woman that shredded their fucking argument on live television. You know what I mean? I think I mean that was very pouty. That was very like, oh, she's so triggered, she's so mad, she won't let anybody else talk. It's like, oh, I've heard that. Where have I heard that before? Huh? But I think, like I said, I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, if that's the kind of audience that you're dealing with every single day, how that would get old and how that would wear down at you, and like, I have, I've never been shy about, curating our audience, right? And being like, fuck you, I hate you. You're going to wear the dunce cap a million times until you stop showing up. You know what I mean? But it's a different kind of a role that she's doing over there. Like I said, I think she's tough. I think that she, I hope that they're, I imagine they're paying her pretty well. I wouldn't, assume that she undervalues herself. She's fucking got a Harvard law degree. I hope that she's out there securing the bag. Lord knows that Robby is fucking money minded, and I would be pissed if I found out that she wasn't getting paid what he was getting paid for sure. But no, I don't think that she's going anywhere. It's a soft seat. It seems like to me the only thing that sucks is that they have to get up early. But if you're if you're thinking as far as like DC media jobs go, they have an audience. They have a regular schedule. She's still able to do the Bad Faith pod. I imagine it's way less hectic than being Bernie Sanders' fucking press secretary or even being a beat journalist for fucking The Intercept. You know what I mean? So